What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. The game isn't quite out yet, but we have had some big news this morning. Defensive contributions are coming to the game. So in this video, I'm going to talk through the information we have, how it's going to work, and how many points are on offer. So let's get into it. So just quickly before I talk about the changes, one question that I know a lot of people are going to ask me is, when will FPL launch? When will you be able to play around with your squad? The honest answer is I'm not sure. But given that they've only just dropped this on Friday morning, we've had no price reveals yet, I'd find it really unlikely if they were to launch the game on a weekend. So I suspect it'll be early next week, like Monday or Tuesday. So enjoy this weekend. It's probably going to be the last one where you're not worrying about your FPL team for a while. And if you are excited about FPL coming back soon, make sure to drop the video a like and hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 500k this season. So what's new in Fantasy Premier League for 25-26 defensive contributions? And you can see this graphic at the top. Tarkowski would have got an extra 44 points last year, Caicedo 42, and Murillo 38. Centre-back, defensive midfielder, centre-back. They are the kind of players that FPL are trying to improve. So this is the article that's gone up on the Premier League website. And basically, I'm just going to run through it because the FPL site's not up yet. This is the best we've got about explaining what's changing. So it goes on to explain, for a while now, attacking threat has often been the main consideration when picking players in fantasy. That has even been the case when selecting defenders. Since clean sheets can disappear so quickly, the go-to options have often been offensive fullbacks, right? So although we would sometimes pick like a Gabriel for set-piece threat, Vardy as well, often we're looking for that Robinson or that Trent Alexander-Arnold. I know he's obviously not going to be an option this year, but you get the point I'm trying to make. And then whilst it goes on to say, while centre-backs have frequently been rated according to their ability to score goals, I've just mentioned Vardy and Gabriel, from set pieces rather than their main job of protecting their own penalty box. Meanwhile, defensive midfielders have largely been overlooked entirely in FPL because of a lack of regular attacking returns and because they only get 1 point for a clean sheet. But 25-26 is set to be different. The addition of defensive contributions in fantasy this season will help reward these players for their involvement in a match. Although players in all outfield positions can earn FPL points for making defensive contributions, the aim in particular is to recognise the completed defensive actions of centre-backs and defensive midfielders. So you can see what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to get more players involved in terms of discussions around which players should we pick and stuff like that. So we might start looking at players like Caicedo, centre-backs from possibly teams that don't keep as many clean sheets, because they're going to be cheaper. And although they might not get those clean sheets, they've now got the ability to earn extra points. So the table they've got in this article is the 10 players that would have received the most points last season. 5 were centre-backs and 5 were defensive midfielders. So again, you can see the aim that FPL is trying to get with this change. So Tarkowski would have got 44 points. Caicedo would have got 42. I already mentioned them. Bednarak for Southampton, bearing in mind, I don't know about you, but I didn't look at Southampton defenders once last year. I mean, before this change, I was already thinking Leeds defender, no. Burnley defender, no. Sunderland defender, absolutely not. Maybe that has to be a consideration now. Bednarak would have got an extra 40 points. And obviously, they'll have to adjust prices slightly. But if you get a 4.5 Burnley defender, and they look like they're going to be good for clearances, blocks, interceptions, and tackles, they might be worth it as an enabler. Because obviously we don't have the prices right now. It might be that FPL put all the attacker prices up. So we've got to think about this a little bit more. If they keep prices similar to last season, I'm not sure this is going to have a massive impact on how we select players. But it does at least give us something new to think about this season compared to previous ones. Howson at Bournemouth, who was already quite popular at stages last season, would have got 38 points. Obviously, you can't select him this year. Murillo, 38. Elliot Anderson at Forest, midfielder, 36 points. João Gomez at Wolves, midfielder, 36 points. Idrissa Gueye at Everton, 36. Wout Faes, again, another defender from a team that came up, went straight back down, an extra 34 points. And then Norgard at Brentford, who's now gone to Arsenal, so he's probably not going to get great minutes, would have got 34 points. So it is going to be interesting that there'll be different players to think about. My initial instinct is it's not going to massively affect how we pick players. But if there's a fullback and a centre-back from a team like Everton, for example, you might be more tempted to go for the centre-back, especially if the price is the same. What will be really interesting is if they price Tarkowski at 5 and then one of the fullbacks, like I don't know, let's say Mikalenko, for example, from previous seasons, who's not actually that attacking. If he was 4.5, then where'd you go? That'll be an interesting discussion. But as always with these things, prices will make a huge impact on which players we select. So how does it work? So this season, I don't know why that's in orange, by the way, but whatever. This season, any defender who reaches a combined total of 10 clearances, blocks, interceptions and tackles, CBIT is what they're calling it, in a single batch will score 2 points. So it's not just centre-backs, by the way, it's also full-backs. But generally, having played games like Sky in the past and stuff like that, centre-backs are usually the ones that are impacted by this the most. But obviously the reason they've done that is because then we're not always looking at full-backs for attack and return. So they're trying to, again, increase the player pool. It's similar to the fact that when a goalkeeper makes 3 saves, they earn an extra 1 point. But unlike save points, defensive contributions will be capped at 2 points per match. So if a defender makes 20 clearances, blocks, interceptions, and tackles in a match, they would still just get 2 points. So basically, you get 10 clearances, blocks, interceptions, and tackles. You hit that 10, you get 2 points. Job done. Doesn't matter when you hit it in the match, you're going to get those 2 points, but you're not going to get anything additional. Okay, which is, I think, is quite good, right? You don't want to make it so we're never selecting fullbacks, we're only selecting centre backs. So I can see why they've done that. I'm not going to look at the. Oh, I know why it's highlighted now. I'm not going to watch the videos because I'll probably get copyright strike. But there is some videos in this article. I'll link it in the description below if you want to go and check it out. But basically it says, you can see in the video below how Everton centre-back James Tarkowski racked up 10 defensive contributions in a match against Man City last season. He actually got 18 in that match, but only the first 10 would have counted. Notably, as you can see, he got his 7th, 8th and 9th defensive contributions in the space of just a few seconds. One thing I think will be interesting from this is, will we keep players longer? So what I mean by that is, let's say Tarkowski's a decent price and we want to back the Everton defence because it's usually pretty good for clean sheets and he's going to go and get a bunch of additional points for this. When they've got tough fixtures, if you've got the choice between changing your defender or an attacker, you're probably going to change the attacker more often now, which in some ways is more fun, right? It's a bit boring to make defender transfers as it is. So if you've got that player that you know might lose a clean sheet, but they can go and get an additional 2 points, you might just leave them in your team. So it might give you a slightly different way of playing. Like, especially if you're someone that likes to be patient, you want to build to those 5 free transfers. Presumably FPL are not changing that this year. Having players in that can get these additional points regularly might mean you can be more patient. You can use your transfers elsewhere. Anyway, let's move on to midfielders and forwards. Extra ball recoveries for midfielders and forwards. So to recognise the defensive work done by midfielders and forwards, including pressing and transitioning defence into attack, they get extra rewards that defenders don't. In addition to clearances, blocks, interceptions and tackles, their ball recoveries will also count towards their total of defensive contributions, right? So these recoveries include a range of actions that defensive midfielders in particular are good at, like being first to a ball. Notably, what they do with the ball after securing it is taken into account when awarding a recovery. This is going to be quite funny. You know how people already get super frustrated by the bonus system? I can see it being game week 1. Someone's picked Caicedo. They think he's made a ball recovery. FPL don't count it for whatever reason. And then people are moaning to FPL on Twitter. I can already see that happening. But anyway, the player will often be rewarded for starting a counter-attack or for securing stable possession for their team by making the first controlled pass after a moment where the two sides have fought for the ball. Okay, because midfielders and forwards can benefit from these extra recovery actions, they have to get more defensive contributions in order to earn their 2 FPL points. They have to get 12 total. Defenders only need 10. So, just to kind of recap on that, clearances, blocks, interceptions and tackles, all players can benefit from that, but obviously it's mostly defenders that are going to do that in a game. If you have a match where, I don't know, Gabriel Jesus is fit and playing for Arsenal and he's doing a lot of defensive work and he's listed as a forward, maybe he'll get to 12 clearances, blocks and interceptions, but mostly it's going to be defenders. So for defenders, fullbacks and centre-backs, 10 clearances, blocks, interceptions and tackles will get you 2 points. It's not 1 point, it's always 2, and that is capped. For midfielders and forwards, they also benefit from clearances, blocks, interceptions, and tackles, but they also get ball recoveries as well, and they've got to get to 12, and then they will get 2 points. So no one's getting more than 2 points for this. You have to hit 10 if you're a defender, and 12 if you're a midfielder or a forward. And I don't think there's too much else in this. It's just another video about Caicedo and how he got points. Where will you see these points? You'll be able to see which players have earned these new points while a match is happening in the pages of the Fantasy website and app, in the same way that you can already see how many saves a goalkeeper has made in real time or who is leading the way for bonus points. There'll be a new defensive contribution section that will show which players have accumulated enough actions to earn 2 FPL points. You won't be able to see live totals for players who are yet to reach their required threshold, which is a bit annoying, really. Like, you kind of want to know if you've got Caicedo that he's on 7 tackles or whatever, and then see if he can go and get 5 more while you're watching the match. But whatever, maybe they'll implement that in the future. Look, what are my thoughts on this? It's always interesting to have new stuff, like a new way of playing, right? This is going to give us food for thought. Personally, I've said this for a while, I don't think this is going to be this massive overhaul to the game that is going to make it more interesting. Like, is it more interesting to be watching a game hoping for tackles and interceptions than it is just hoping for goals and assists? And yes, you look at those points back on that table towards the start of the article. Great, we've got these 10 players now who got loads more points last year. They're now more interesting to pick. But if FPL know that these players are now going to score more points next year, their price is going to go up, right? So it's not like all of a sudden, we know that we can go and pick Caicedo. Caicedo is not going to be 4.5. If he's going to go and get an extra 42 points this year, he might be 5 or 5.5. And then will that be as interesting to pick? Potentially. I just don't personally think the defensive contributions make a more fun game. And by the way, people will straight away, now this information is out, be already, while I'm recording this, working out which players will benefit and whether or not they are worth it over an attacker. So personally, what I think will happen is it won't massively increase the player pool that we have to select from. Different players will just be more popular now. So like I said, when I'm looking for an Everton defender, am I going to go for that cheap player like Mikalenko who's not all that attacking? Probably not. If the centre-back is, just the same price or a little bit more expensive, I'm just going to pick them instead. People will work out who the better players are. So I don't want to be down about this. I think it's good that FPL are trying to innovate. Lots of other fantasy games have these metrics. Lots of people like playing with them. So I think in general it's a good addition. But I think people should temper their expectations about how different this season is going to be just because defensive midfielders and centre-backs are now going to earn more points. Like I said, for Liverpool, for example, now, everyone's looking at Kirkes, Frimpong. Will Frimpong play? Will it be Bradley? If Van Dijk's the same price and he's going to benefit from this and he did okay last year, then you're probably just going to look at him instead. Like, for example, the Sky game, when that was a thing and people used to play that. I didn't play it as regularly as others, but I did have a full season playing that game. And in that, often people just wouldn't pick Trent. They'd pick Van Dijk. Or for Man City, they wouldn't pick Foden. They'd pick Rodri. So it's not like Rodri was this player that no one knew about. They all knew that Rodri was an amazing option and he was in everyone's team. So rather than have, an attacker like you'd have in FPL, everyone in Sky just had Rodri. That's what I mean. People will figure out pretty quickly who the better players are to pick. But look, I'm always pretty open-minded with this stuff. Let's get through at least a full season to see if it adapts our strategy, which players we're picking. Is there generally or genuinely a bigger pool of players? Let's hope there is. And we'll see what happens when the game launches and whether there's any other changes. And hopefully that will be on Monday or Tuesday. I don't think I've got anything else to add. If anything else comes out from FPL today, obviously there'll be another video on this. And once people much smarter than me start working out which players are massively impacted from this outside of the 10 that FPL have listed in this article, I'm sure we'll add that to some other videos and stuff like that. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed that, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. If you're excited for FPL to soon be back, there's plenty more videos to come once the game is out. Do not worry about that. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll catch you again soon.